What's going on, guys? Alpha the Wizard back at it with another video. Today we're going to be continuing the meta history of Yu-Gi-Oh series that I started, where I go over old formats. I started with 2004 and I'm going to continue all the way up. And today we are going to be covering 2005 GOAT format, which was from March to September of 2005. GOAT format is one of the more popular retro formats, and a lot of people still play this today. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and showcase my list that's been performing very well for me, and it's pretty standard, pretty traditional, and yeah, I'll go ahead and show that. So we start off with the BLS. This card is mandatory. It's one of the broken chaos cards that survived the ban list, but eventually got banned after this format. And then next, we do play Jinzo. Jinzo is so good this format, especially since the opponent is going to be maximizing on using trap cards and like Mirror Force and Eternal Tribute. And also Jinzo in tandem with Call the Haunted is really good. And then for the weaker but still really powerful monsters, we have a Surrepriest. A Surrepriest is really good in GOAT format, just because there's a lot of scapegoat tokens floating around. So this card just allows you to clear your opponent's entire board of scapegoat tokens, or if they have a lot of monsters that this can beat over. Yeah, a Surrepriest is really, really good. And then I do play Breaker the Magical Warrior. This card gives you so much value this format, just because, you know, you're forcing out, a Torrential Tribute. You could pop their Mirror Force. You know, Breaker just has a lot of value, and being able to break their Snatch Steal and release your monster is another key component to Breaker being so but then we also play Tribe Infecting Virus. This card is really important in this format because Sinister Serpent's a thing. So with Sinister Serpent, you can just pitch that with Tribe and just call any type and just blow up all monsters of that type. So this is an out to Spirit Reaper. It's an out to like a Jinzo. It's a really good card. In my build in particular, I am opting to play 2 Tsukiyomi, mainly because Tsukiyomi is just an inherent out to things. Like, you know, if they have your monster with Snatch Steal or something, you can book the monster and just beat over it. Or if you Snatch Steal their monster, you can just book that and then keep it forever. Tsukiyomi is just really good. It's a good out to Breaker. It's a good out to Tribe. It's pretty good card. You can out the Thousand Eyes Restrict. Thousand Eyes is really prevalent this format, so I'm opting to play 2 Tsukiyomi, even though it is searchable by Sangan. I like seeing this card, but I definitely think like 1 isn't enough, even though most people play 1. But yeah, and then I do play Sangan. Sangan's pretty common in this format, in almost every format from back in the day. Sangan searches your Tsukiyomi, you know, searches Magician of Faith. It can also search Spirit Reaper, which is also really good this format. But we do also play 2 Magician of Faith, mainly because Magician of Faith, there's so many power spells this format. And then tying into the light monsters, we also have Air Knight Parshath. So granted, this is a chaos themed deck. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this one up here with these. But yeah, Air Knight Parshath is really important for the deck just because it's a light and it gets you so much advantage. But yes, and then we do play Sinister Serpent as well. This card, it just keeps coming back, and it's very hard for them to out it unless they have Noblemen of Crossout. But then we do have our little toolbox strategy. I play a more toolboxy build with like DD Assailant. I actually play 2 Assailants just because I play Reinforcements of the Army. So with having Assailant, you know, it just allows me to have a bigger monster that's a good normal summon and a good set at the same time. I also gotta play DD Warrior Lady because this is an out to like a Spirit Reaper or even a BLS. But we also play Donnie Z. This right here is my favorite card from GOAT format. Just because like Donnie Z, it just applies so much pressure on the opponent because like forcing them to discard a card, GOAT format is all about card advantage. So if you out advantage your opponent, you're always going to win that game. And it's very easy to just clear a monster and then attack with Donnie Z. Yeah, this card is really good, and playing reinforcements of the army, it's searchable. But then last but not least, we do have Exiled Force. This card is another out to like a big body, like a Spirit Reaper, a Jinzo, an Air Knight. Exiled is really, really important in this format. But yeah, so that's it for the monsters. Now for the spells, we have the power spells. We got Pot of Greed. Pot is like, there's no reason not to play it. They actually let this card be legal, so yeah, we have that, and we also have Graceful Charity. Graceful Charity is really good. It's very obvious. Just draw 2 cards or 3 cards and discard 2. So being able to fuel your graveyard for like chaos monsters is really good. Graceful is just mandatory, and then we add Delinquent Duo, and basically they call this the trio. Pot, Graceful, Duo are 3 power spells, and if you see them, you've opened the trio. But then we do play Premature Burial. Premature Burial is really good this format, just being able to revive a Sangan and then tribute over it. For a Jinzo, Premature Burial is quite mandatory. We also have Snatch Steal. Snatch Steal does a lot this format because we play cards like Tsukiyomi. We can tribute for Jinzo, do a lot with Snatch Steal, or even just take their Blackluster Soldier. So in addition to that, we do play 2 Scapegoats. So Scapegoat is the heart and soul of this format because it's called GOAT format. So that just means everybody and their mom is playing Scapegoats. And it also, with the Scapegoats, they're also playing Metamorphosis. So basically how this works is you Metamorphosis a Scapegoat token, and that can summon Thousand Eyes Restrict, which can take one of their monsters. So yeah, this whole format was basically centered around that strategy, somewhere within their deck. And then we do play 2 Noblemen of Crossout. Now this format, a lot of people were setting cards and passing. So with it being such a set heavy format, Noblemen just gets so much value. But then I do play 1 Book of Moon. Book of Moon is pretty decent this format. Some has seen it as a neg 1, but I like the interruption aspect, just being able to book a monster, because you can also Book of Moon your own Magician of Faith and flip it back up. But then, we gotta play the blowout cards, Heavy Storm and Mystical Space Typhoon. So basically, these cards are just mandatory. With Heavy Storm alone being in the format, people cannot just set their whole hands. They have to choose what cards they value the most. But yeah, and then I do play 1 Reinforcements of the Army because it's a toolbox strategy and we have a lot of good targets. But in addition to that, I also play Enemy Controller. A lot of people question this, and don't really play this in Go format, but it's very strong. And I've seen the evolution of this card in popularity over the years, and people realize how good it is. And back then, nobody really played it like that. But it's an interruption on your opponent's turn, but you can also tribute like a goat token and take one of their monsters. So yeah, Enemy Controller is really good. So moving on to the trap cards, we play Mirror Force because this is one of the most broken cards of this time, and it just clears all their monsters in attack position if they attack. And Ring of Destruction is another one. You can easily OTK with this if they get too low on life points. Just strategically using your Ring of Destruction, it's curtains. But yeah, and then we also play Torrential Tribute. It's another blowout card. They have to play around this card. With this card being a thing at this time, it's another card similar to Heavy Storm, they have to be careful and be weary of Torrential Tribute. And then we also play Call the Haunted. Call is really good as well, just being able to revive a Genzo or an Air Knight. In my list in particular, I also choose to play 2 Sakuretsu Armor. Granted, they're not blowout trap cards, but they deal with a problem. The only cards that this really loses to is like a Genzo, Heavy Storm, and an MST, Mystical Space Typhoon. So with that being said, that's not very many cards. Sakuretsu is going to be very good and come up in very clutch situations. Now, moving on to the extra deck, Go Format's extra deck was very prevalent because of Metamorphosis. So you would max out on all these because none of these are limited at the time. And you could also have an unlimited amount of cards in your extra deck. So you definitely just want to play 3 of each of these. But I'm just going to be showing you my deck and what I currently have. So yeah, all these, you don't really make this one right here, Dragoness, because, you know, it's not a light or dark. So there's really no point in making that. But it does have more attack than Flame Ghost. Flame Ghost is the only level 3 dark at the time that's a fusion. So chances are you're going to be summoning this more than the other ones. Now the other one does have more attack, but Flame Ghost just synergizes more with the strategy. But then we also have Darkfire Dragon. This is the level 4 that's a dark. So you would definitely max out on these. And I mean, you still can play Carbonella Warrior, but you don't necessarily have to. They're the same attack. Darkfire Dragon is just better, honestly. But yeah, and then we do play Reaper on the Nightmare. Basically, it's Spirit Reaper, but it can attack directly, but it's outed the same way as Spirit Reaper. So you don't really make it too often. And then I also play Flame Swordsman just because you can have 3 of everything. But mainly because this was my brother Jordan, who passed away's favorite card. He loved Joey Wheeler, so rest in peace, Jordan. I have this card basically in here as a tribute. And then we do play Dark Balter the Terrible. Now, this card alone was an out to all the Reasoning Gate Turbo decks because they can't activate any normal spells. So this is just going to negate everything that matters to them. And then, of course, we play Fiend Skull Dragon. Fiend Skull Dragon negates flip effects, which is really important in this format because, you know, they might have a Magician of Faith, Morphing Jar, you know, or something along those lines. We do play Metal Dragon just because we can. Dark Flare Knight can come up in unique situations, but you don't make it too often. But we will end up making Ryu Senshi quite often. This card is really, really good. It's not quite better than Genzo, but you can definitely take their Genzo with like a Snatch Steal and then make Ryu Senshi. So it's definitely valuable. I do play Ojama King. Doesn't really come up, but it's a 3000 defense. So, you know, if you need to stall, it's not the worst. And then Dark Blade the Dragon Knight. It's basically like a Kaiku. If it deals damage, you banish 3 card monsters from your opponent's graveyard. So, you know, it's good against Chaos decks. And then we do play Master of Oz. This card will almost never come up, but it may with Metamorphosis. But then we play Gatling Dragon. This is the level 8 of this time that is really good. Yeah, so Gatling Dragon is necessary. I definitely would recommend picking up a copy. But yeah, so that really does it for the GOAT profile. This is my traditional list, and I really hope you enjoyed, you know, everything that I'm working with because, yeah, GOAT format is fun. But yeah, I will see you in the next one of the meta history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where I talk about Reasoning Gate Turbo.